We're back. Hey, I think I know you. I know this guy. This is Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley and Dr. Raymond Tidman. Good morning from downtown Blue Ridge, Georgia. Thank you, Northside Cancer Institute. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. We got this segment's got to roll. It's got to move.
Well, we got plenty of time.
Oh, do we?
We're getting a good start.
Don't get a rush. All right.
The most important thing, is to have a life. And I'm going to leave here and drive to Hallman Stadium somewhere down in DeKalb County and watch my oldest Atlanta grandson graduate from high school at 11 o'clock in the hot sun. So anyway, that's where I'm going. All right.
They schedule it right out there on the foot, but they want to make sure it's nice and hot for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take this jacket off then. But I got my sunscreen on already. Ray had me put that on.
Well, I'll tell you a little something. I was with my daughter-in-law last night. My granddaughter graduated from preschool. I didn't know you did that, but you do. They have a big ceremony and everything. So I go down to preschool graduation, and I was talking to my daughter-in-law, and I said, I remember your graduation. I remember your graduation. I was there. And what I remember is how hot it was. So I don't know the memories you make, but one thing you do remember at graduation is sitting in the heat.
It can either rain or be hot.
Exactly.
All right.
Go ahead there.
All right. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You ready, Ray?
Yeah, we'll check on him.
All right. We got two questions today that hit on some stuff of great general interest, I think. One of them is how things have really improved in one disease, and second, how when you see a bit of news of some sort of a miracle thing, you kind of want to drag it back and say, it's like walking through the checkout line at the grocery store and seeing the National Enquirer tell you about something really good, that's crazy as hell, and you want to participate in it.
So another two-headed alien, yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Another two-headed alien that they
right,
saw.
all right.
Yeah, okay.
I am 75 years old, and I have prostate cancer, and I am on hormone blocker shots and pills, and have been for 7 years. So this man has recurrent prostate cancer that has occurred after he had his surgery or radiation or whatever, and he's been held in remission for 7 years. My PSA is 0. And I feel well. I saw, this is my point I'm making here, is I saw on the internet today, and I tell people stay away from Dr. Google, but he was watching a blog, whatever that is. I don't even know what a blog is. I saw on the internet today a blog from the NIH, that's the National Institutes of Health, about Nubega. Now that's a new drug for hormonal therapy of prostate cancer. And it said, Nubega and chemotherapy plus hormones being better than chemotherapy and hormones without Nubega. I called my oncologist, and he said, quote, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if I relapse, we will discuss it then. Your thoughts, please. You got that?
Yeah, I got it.
What do you think?
I'm going to side with the oncologist. Now, I'm going to side with the oncologist for a number of reasons, but you're 7 years, my PSA is 0, and I feel well.
Yeah.
Why are you looking for a problem?
That's it. You got it. You hit the nail on it. You hit the nail on the head. There's several things about this. One, he's not on chemotherapy.
Right.
So what this thing was, it added Nubega to hormones and chemotherapy. So he's not even in the class that would get that drug. Although I do have a patient on Nubega that I do not have on chemotherapy at the moment, but we won't say that. Go to the first slide there.
But wait a minute. You have that patient, you have that prescribed because it is broke.
It was broke.
Right. So
I needed to add that drug to something.
So and the oncologist here is saying, unless that takes place,
you don't need anything.
Don't change nothing.
Please don't change.
And you're under good doctor care, and that's important to stay under your doctor. Go ahead.
Yeah, like Ray always says, talk to your doctor. Well, that guy's already talked to his doctor. All right. So put the first thing up there. We're talking about prostate cancer. We're gonna touch a little bit on history here. I found a great graphic, and I love the way it looks. But so this man, we know from his story, had some sort of local control treatment to his prostate. It could have been radiation, it could have been surgery, it could have been seeds or whatever. And his disease recurred, or he would never have gotten on any therapy other than the local treatment. Meaning, if you got prostate cancer, local treatment works. You never get on anything else, right? So he had a recurrence. Okay, you got that first one up there? So that's stage 4, advanced cancer, the lower right-hand corner. Mm-hmm. So it had to recur. Pull that one down. Now this is a great one. I love this one. I saw that this has been out a couple of years, but this is the history of prostate cancer that would begin when Ray and I were in medical school. When we were in medical school, the majority of the diagnosis of prostate cancer was made, you see this guy holding his back, was when the guy came to the doctor with pain in his back or somewhere else, or he could not urinate at all. And he had advanced prostate cancer at the time of diagnosis. Okay, so 70% of cancer of the prostate diagnosed back in our day was stage 4. Now, then they began to develop surgery. They didn't have really good surgery. They developed surgeries which took 4 to 6 hours to accomplish through a knife. Was the primary treatment for the prostate. Remove it. This before radiation and before seeds. All required 4 to 5 units of blood.
Bled like stink.
Yeah.
Became impotent.
Yeah, became impotent.
Became incontinent.
And then you leaked your urine all the time. But then that
saved your life for a while.
But your PSA may stay 0 then. But you've gone through a bad situation. So then this sort of standard option business of one size fits all came in after that. So when you recurred, then they had female hormones that they gave you. You took estrogen until they developed these blockers that block hormones from making, or they took your testicles off. Either one of those pretty drastic, right? Mm-hmm. So then they developed those therapies. Now, here, early detection, that's when the PSA came in view. So the number, and by the way, this next question is going to sort of mirror this thing about the PSA and early detection, so that at the time of diagnosis now, only 5% at the time of diagnosis are where 70% were back in the day. At the time of diagnosis, only 1 out of every 20 patients has stage 4 disease. That's what the PSA did, all right? Now you can do surgery through a robot. That takes an hour or 2. Nobody loses any blood. They go home after the surgery. Don't even spend the night. Plus, there are other things we can do, like radiation and seeding. And then if you recur,
and it's also rare to be incontinent after that surgery, and your sexual functions preserved. So yes. I mean the advances are immense. Immense.
Not only that, but if you recur, the advances are immense. What's that word right there say? Precision medicine. Pull that thing down now. So that's where we are today. What this guy is talking about doing here, he has been given hormonal therapy that's specific. He didn't get chemo for reasons that the oncologist figured out. Okay, we're going to pop this one up for just a second. The reason that so many of these patients now are diagnosed in a non-advanced stage, you got the next one up there, is that they're in a low-risk group. That's that Gleason 6 and 7. Remember, we talked about a week ago we had a Gleason 9, and I said that guy's got advanced disease at the time of diagnosis. Okay, you can pull that down, and don't put anything up there now. So largely, you have a group of patients that, when they are diagnosed, have a high-grade tumor, And what you do in terms of surgery, robot, radiation, or seeds is not going to dramatically improve their long-term survival, because it is so aggressive at the time that it's probably spread. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, put the next one up. What is that? That's an algorithm.
Yes.
It's only up there for a brief minute. But if you're in that low-risk group, there are many people over here who are treated with active
surveillance. Yes.
That's me. I've got prostate cancer. I'm being treated with active surveillance. As you become more risky, then here you get the different, so you can pull that one down. You get the different ways of doing surgery. And there are some people, because of their desire, one, the patient gets to make the decision, we're treating a human being and not a chart, or they've got heart disease or something that you wouldn't want to operate them on. You can get the same sort of local control treatment by putting radioactive seeds in the prostate, giving external beam radiation to the prostate. You just have the same group of complications of bladder irritation and so forth, but it's basically tolerated well, but that's still the local control treatment. Put the next one up. What's this? It's another algorithm,
yes.
Right? So this is where this guy has gotten to. He had hormone-naive disease. He was treated alone with ADT, means hormone blocking or androgen blocking treatment. He did not require chemotherapy. He did not require any of those new drugs we've talked about. Pull that one down. And for 7 years, he has been without any additional treatment. Now that's a big deal, isn't it? 7 years.
Yes.
That's a long time. All right. What that blog said. What is a blog? I'm serious as a train wreck. What is a blog, Ray? You know about it.
Well, I mean, it's a posting on the internet where people kind of banter back and forth with each other. Mostly an individual shepherds the line of talk and give information, and then they allow feedback and they respond to it. So when somebody says, I blog on the internet, it's like they're pontificating about something.
There you go.
Is that the same as bloviating?
Bloviating, yes.
That's a Rush Limbaugh word.
Yes,
bloviating.
a lot of
okay,
bloviating.
So it's organized bloviating, and you could do it on anything you want to do.
Any topic you want.
How does anybody?
You can bloviate about rust on your
How does
bumper.
anybody find it? I mean, I'm serious.
You can search. You can take some topic, like fly fishing in Georgia, and there'll be somebody that's blogging about where the best places
that's
are.
Probably.
Well, when you say don't ask Google Doc,
yeah.
You could go in Google and you could type in chemo, hormone therapy, Nubega, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You could put those in and then hit search, and that blog can come up that discussion is there.
Okay.
So it's
but wait a minute.
Yeah.
It looks like he got to this blog though, not by looking for that, but by maybe he was looking for.
He could just say
cancer.
treatments for prostate cancer, anything.
Anyway, I don't understand. Okay. Yeah, this is Blue Ridge, and that was not the beer truck. And you know why you know it? Because it was moving too fast. The beer truck has to stop in front of this restaurant right here and unload beer.
Frequent
that was
stops.
The Folger gas truck, and we'll tell him to slow down next
I
time.
like the truck that delivers the steaks.
The steak. He came by earlier.
Oh, earlier.
Yeah, he did. All right. The next one, throw this one up, and then we'll pull it right back down. Before this new Bega came along, if this guy taking these hormonal therapies had begun to have a rise in PSA, you got that up there? There's a list of chemotherapeutic drugs that you would give to the patient, and that would be the standard of care prior to this drug hitting the market. Pull that down. Chemotherapy has a high degree of effectiveness when this patient relapses, but it creates a lot of problems for him. One, he'll have to go to the doctor's office every 2 or 3 weeks to get an infusion of the drug. 2, he'll have to start having blood counts every week or 2. 3, he'll have to start having biochemical profiles every week or 2. 4, he may begin to get side effects of the chemotherapy, lowering his blood count or causing him to have nausea. So you don't go to chemotherapy without a huge risk-benefit thought, because this hormonal therapy, he only goes every 6 months for a shot, and he takes a pill. So this patient today has to go see his doctor every 6 months and take some lab tests. If you have the chemotherapy to him, he's gonna start going 3 or 4 times a month. So that, when the doctor says, when his oncologist said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, we're gonna buy that. Okay.
Can I digress on that just for a second?
That's what you're here for, digress.
Digressing. So you're speaking to an individual having a relationship with a physician or a professional or someone of trust that they're dialoguing with, and they're figuring out the best way forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. Versus someone who is trying to read and research. There's nothing wrong with him trying to figure this out on personal, impersonal concepts that are sitting out there in the ethers that may or may not be relevant to him.
Correct.
Right. So my advice is, have in these areas of importance in your life, whether it's your health and you're dealing with an issue, or your finances, or your retirement, or something else, that you have people that you trust and help guide you, that you respect, that have a dialogue with you, versus some inanimate object that's posting out there some opinion that it may or may not be appropriate to you. And
you don't call your doctor and say, I was in line at the coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, you might.
Well, no, but, I mean, and I was well, maybe you do, but I was in line at the coffee shop and we were discussing this right here, and this came up.
Yeah.
That's somebody you actually met, if you're talking to. But when you go online, you're talking to a lot of people that...
You're talking about a lot of people who may or may not have your best interest,
right, exactly.
or maybe they're just bloviating.
Yeah, bloviating.
They may have no concept of what they're talking about. But my point is that if you're going to go to some source like that has no personal connection to you, if the source is teaching you about things to look for, or things that you can measure, or things to help you analyze something, that's useful. But if it's there telling you what to do, run from it.
Yeah, I would say I would say if you see something and you want to question it, flip over and type in Mayo Clinic newsletter or play MD Anderson website or something. These are reliable academic places that'll have some general information. But the best thing to do is call your own doctor up. But still, if you're still there playing on the internet, you go to a reliable... We don't know who this guy is blogging. It was an NIH blog, however. So he was giving a talk about New Bega. So let's get the next thing here. Here's New Bega, okay? It's a pill. It's not a shot. It does not make you come into the office every week. It does not have those toxicities. Put the next one up. This is a, what do you call this right here? We call this a cartoon of activity, how this drug works. So at the end of the day, what this drug does is it adds a last layer of blockade between the production of testosterone, which feeds the tumor, and the activity of what small amount of testosterone is there to even get in the prostate cancer cell. So pull that down. And what's that one?
That is a survival chart.
Yes, sir.
Algorithm was first, survival chart.
All right, here's your survival curve.
There is a pattern here.
Yes, I'm getting that.
All right, survival curve. The top line is New Bega.
Right.
The bottom line is placebo. Now, so that was how that was what the blog was all about. Was that if you add New Bega to standard therapy, that included chemo, so that would have been the shot was every 6 months. The pill, you've put the poor guy on the chemo that makes him come every 2 or 3 weeks, and add this drug, then you do increase the survival rate better than the chemotherapy alone. You can pull that down now. So I will go back to my standard answer when it usually says, my doctor says, what's your thought? What I try to do is explain why I say, listen to your doctor. That right there is the science behind it. Your case, you're 75 now, so you were diagnosed with metastatic disease at 68. You didn't say when your primary tumor was, but it may have been a year, 5 years or so before. But you had primary care treatment, you have relapsed, and you've been in remission for 7 years. So you should be encouraged that there are places to go if what you're taking now stops working. And those places are largely did not exist 15 years ago. These chemotherapeutic drugs, which are easy to give, did not exist. You've heard about the Zytiga and the other targeted therapies instead of chemotherapy, which exist, and they did not exist. Nubega's been on the market now for 6 to 8 weeks.
Bill, wouldn't you say, when we say listen to your doctor, that is, have a relationship with your doctor and know that you have a dialogue going on, but in no way would we be saying don't get a second opinion.
Yeah, right.
If something's not right and you feel like you need more information, there is nothing wrong with getting a second opinion, and no good physicians would ever be
happy to have you look
they're
over
happy to have you see someone else.
I think here one of the couple takeaways for me: billions of people have online discussions every day.
Yeah.
And that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's another form of having a discussion and being able to talk with people. So that's not the worst thing. But some things here are, 7 years, my PSA is 0, I feel well, so you got up this morning. You're having an online discussion, fine, but it does sound like you're under very good care.
Yeah.
And follow the doctor's orders, and outside of that, second opinions, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think one thing it tells you is our science is moving so fast that you should be encouraged that here is a totally non-toxic treatment that has just come out.
But
and so that there's lots of things down there if things go bad in the future.
I want to pull out the best part of this question for me. Is he was having an online discussion, and people are going to do that, okay?
Well, you like that, Joe.
All right. And he had an online discussion, but he did call his oncologist.
Yeah.
Too many people have an online discussion, don't go back to their doctor and say, well, and then when they do go to the doctor says, what are you doing? Well, I was talking to somebody.
Or even more common than that are the folks, particularly my men folks, who are neglecting symptoms.
Right.
And they are not they don't have that relationship with someone they can call or go in and see and say, what about? Bill and I lost a good friend recently, a young guy in his 50s, was having chest pain and didn't get it attended to. He's dead now. And that just shouldn't have happened. So.
All right, so there you go. Your time is your clock is running.
All right.
Georgia Cancer Specialist affiliated with Northside Hospital Cancer Institute. Question 2.
This next question, I think, is more of a primary care general interest question about when should you do what. I mean, whether it's mammogram, colonoscopy, or whatever. And this is an area of investigation that I think has been underutilized, and this question is sort of criticizing the fact that it's being more often utilized now and how it may be skewing statistical analysis. That's why I showed that picture of what 70% of prostate cancer when Rady and I were in school was diagnosed in stage 4. Just remember that when we go to this next question. I had early stage malignant melanoma, so it was not stage 4. I am getting regular follow-ups with no problems, although I frequently have dysplastic nevi removed. Well, you're looking at a guy who had 7 biopsies last year. I've got a partner that gets biopsies every probably 3 months, so you get lots of biopsies and very few of them are melanomas. All right, I frequently have dysplastic nevi removed. My doctor tells me that these are pre-melanomas, so that's what a pigmented thing that's of melanoma type that isn't become malignant. It's called the dysplastic nevi. I heard on the news this morning, and by the way, I heard this also, I think this was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I heard on the news this morning that new melanoma screening, which I had, that's how she found her melanoma, or he, is leading to, quote, too many melanoma diagnoses that are early, and that screening might not be cost effective. So this is not a question of what is good for the patient or what is good for disease detection, but one of those questions about how many cases do you have to, how many people do you have to screen with a mammogram before you find a breast cancer? Or how many colonoscopies do you have to do before you find a colon cancer? And then somebody that's a bean counter saying for life saved by colonoscopy, you got to spend $300,000 on colonoscopy to save one life. And I think that is the number. So the question was, is this cost effective? Well, my thought is, I'm not worried about cost effective, be honest with you. I'm more worried about this individual human being. Every time I say I'm treating a human being and not a chart, I'm certainly not treating an insurance algorithm. So what are your thoughts? You are usually in favor of screening tests. Now this is where I put Ray to work, because this is, in favor of screening tests. And we have had so many discussions here about the mammography and the change over the time we've been doing this program. There have been 3 or 4 changes in mammogram suggestivity, that women when they reach 70 should stop having them, but now women are living to be 95, so maybe they shouldn't stop having them. And they used to say start at age 50, and then they moved it down to 45, and then they moved it down to 40, and then they changed it from every 2 years. I mean, so there have been so many different recommendations. PSA was digital rectal exam, PSA starting at age 40, PSA annually. Well, in the last few years, there have been cost-effective people that stopped doing PSAs at 65. So now we're going to focus on what do you do about detecting skin cancer early, and what is the proper approach to take. So that's where we're going with this. That's basically what the question is. Put that first one up there. This is last year's picture from what? The Northside Cancer Institute for 2021 skin cancer screenings. Big, okay, you pull that down. So this was a big advertisement. It was on television, it showed up in the newspaper, my own institution, advertising for skin cancer screenings. Now, what did that actually consist of? That consisted of a tent outside, I forgot exactly where. Oh, I know where it was. I think it was at the Braves Stadium, and it was all weekend long when there was a Braves series there, and it would be drawing a lot of people to the Braves Stadium anyway, and this was an invitation to the public to come over a 2 or 3 day period when there was a series of baseball games, and you can for free go in these tents, and a doctor or a nurse practitioner will look at you. But they would actually look at the skin. I think they left they had females and males. I've forgotten all exactly how it was done, because I've done this here at Fannin Hospital before for myself. But you get a pretty superficial skin inspection, and then they would give you a paper that says, this looks funny, go to your doctor, or this doesn't look funny, and then they gave you one about use sunscreen and sort of some educational stuff. So put up the next one. Got that? So if you are a healthcare professional and you go to the National Institutes of Health, PDQ, that's the physician data inquiry, you want to know how to screen for skin cancer, pull that down. Then you get all those pictures of the different looking melanomas, and we've shown what the Merkel's look like here and the squamous cell cancer look like here, and it tells you how to screen. It doesn't tell you who to screen or how often to screen. So we still have not answered that question. Who do you screen and how often do you screen? Okay, put that next one back up again. This next one up. This is just a little paragraph. What's that say? American Cancer Society, okay, well that therefore is that organization, recommends that people, listen to this, Corey, between the age of 20 and 40, are you between the age of 20 and 40? Get a professional skin exam every 3 years. When did you have your last professional skin exam? Never, I guarantee you. Wait a minute. Especially in sunny climates. Is that us? This recommendation jumps to what? What does it jump to? Once annually for people over age 40. Except for me, who's had skin cancer, and Ray, who's had
I'm glad I wasn't asked that question.
I don't think there's anybody in the sound of my voice who is getting that screening. I'm getting it every 3 to 6 months. Ray's getting it every 6 months, I think.
Every year or so.
Okay, well anyway, we're all getting it because we've all been out in the sun too much.
Screen that. Those are new.
Oh my God, that's how HIV starts, those little things like that. Those are dysplastic nevi. Go see it. So I'm going to put this up.
I was getting my screening.
That's an alien infestation.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to put up my thing briefly just because it's a thing. This is page 3 of the recommendations of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the American Heart Association. Well, now, this is about everything. Here's immunizations are at the bottom of this, but I want you to understand that there are 2 whole pages above it that are mammography, PSA, colonoscopies, even reproductive health. What is the last thing on the list of 2.5 pages in terms of screening?
Skin health.
Pull that down. So the point I'm making is...
You have 3 minutes.
I got plenty of time. The point I'm making is the last thing on the list in terms of all of these recommendations
is the easiest.
was skin. It's your turn, Ray. You've got your...
Well, I was pontificating again. No, I was pondering that wouldn't it be, maybe it'd be better to have, instead of lifeguards at beaches, we had tables where people came up and got their skin looked at. I mean, hell, you're already stripped down, and you're in the group of people that's out there burning the hell out of your skin. So that's the high-risk population, and you're already ready to be surveyed. So we might wonder if we save more lives doing that than keeping lifeguards out there. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's a great... I like that one, Ray.
So
those women are...
Yeah, they're already
easy.
I mean, even the guys.
He made his point.
He did make it. All right. So now you got your own graphic about.
Yeah, I've got a thing we can post, we can put up there and talk about a little bit. But first of all, any screening test has to be able to detect the disease early enough to make a difference. Okay.
That's
Two things.
Yeah.
Got to detect the disease and early enough to make decisions.
Right.
That's why we quit doing plain chest X-rays for lung cancer a long time ago. Because by the time you saw it on a chest X-ray,
it's advanced.
It's advanced lung cancer, right? Now we do have thin slice CTs that we can do in high-risk populations that will pick up lung cancer soon enough to make a difference.
40-pack years,
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
So, but the whole point of these. Bill and I were talking before we came on here how many different societies have different schedules of what you should have done, and they don't agree. Well, now there's a whole developing area of medicine where they are trying to figure this out. How often does this test need to be done in order to be cost effective to stop diseases?
And this question did hit on cost effectiveness, yeah.
Right, and you know, at some point you can't be doing colonoscopies every 3 months on everybody. I mean, there'd be no colon cancer if we did that, but we'd have a lot of ruptured colons and injuries from colonoscopies too.
And a lot of money spent.
A lot of money spent. Your grandson said if you're late that he's going to hold us accountable.
See, that's there you go. It's time. You sent me 4 messages. They know yesterday, and you put in bold type. I have to be out at 8:45.
I have 2 minutes.
Oh, you got 2? All right, it's your 2 minutes. Take it.
So, but anyway, I don't know if can you pull that up? I sent you the.
Yeah, he's got it.
And what you might do is, I'm just suggesting here, is put that link on your website, because it does link to the American Academy of Family Physicians schedule
now that
of
covers
routine
the whole
testing.
screen, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive screen.
Okay,
and you can scroll through it.
So you can scroll through this. So just showing you, it's about 50 lines and then a long thing about time. So you can pull it down so folks can see us. But we'll put that.
But anyway, that'll be on his website, and it's a good tool to go to because it will morph and change over time. My point that I constantly stress, and I'll re-stress here, is know your risk. That's one of the things you do with your primary care physician. At my age, given my family heritage and my genetics, what's most likely to take me out? Okay? And then you go figure out how often to screen for that or what to do or what to be taking in order to minimize those risks. And that just should be part of your annual health assessment is, am I attending to those things that are likely to get me? And that's where a family physician or a primary care physician or nurse practitioner can be most effective with you, is for you to identify your own personal risk and attend to them and make sure you and this group of people may need to have this set of screenings more often than that set of screenings. So it needs to be personalized. The schedule that you saw there is good for everyone, but as is known well in neuropsychology, we can only attend to so many things at a time. We can only pay attention to so much at a time, and you need to focus down on what you're at risk for and pay attention there.
I want to ask you a little more about screening.
Well, he's going to tell you about screening because it's...
You have a safe trip, okay?
All right.
You have a safe trip. God bless you.
Tidman's segment from here on out, folks.
Dr. William Whaley has to go to his grandson's graduation.
Hey, Bill, before you go, what do you call someone with no body and no nose?
I have no idea.
Nobody knows. Okay.
Okay, we're going to try to get back. Nobody knows. Dr. Whaley, thank you very much. Northside Hospital Cancer Institute. They're headed down to the graduation. Let's stay with the screening a minute.
Okay.
Let's stay with the screening just a minute. Because the chart, let's say, all right, so when we come in and we sit down with you, we're going to start from A to Z. There's a reason why you really do an in-depth on family history.
Right.
In-depth, okay? So family history. Did dad have high cholesterol? Does mom have high cholesterol? Does dad have high blood pressure? Does mom have? Did grandma? Did grandpa?
I try to generalize even more. I back up even further from that. I say in your immediate family, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, did any of them get taken out early? And what did they get taken out by? Okay, because most people have that registered in their mind. Yeah, Uncle Bill, he got melanoma when he was 35 and he was dead by 40. You know, they know because those are dramatic events. So I find it's easier to kind of approach it from that direction. Who in your family died young? And what did they die from? Now, when I get a blank stare is, well, I don't know, or, geez, I'm like, well, go ask. Or call.
So start looking.
Start looking.
Who died
maybe
young?
Your sister asked that question and you never bothered. Well, go ask her who.
Well, let me ask you this question. Okay, so, my uncle, and I'm going to try to say 48. I don't think. Best of my memory, I think he was about 48. He wasn't in his 50s. I know that. Just died of a massive heart attack. Now, at this time. We didn't have a lot of cholesterol medicine. There wasn't a lot of stuff on the market at this time, okay? But massive heart attack. And, you go to the family reunion and everybody says, well, you just look 100% just like
your Uncle Buck.
Like your uncle.
Yeah.
You're like, well, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right? When you have that, let's say heart disease, what do you prepare now? How do you what
so
screening
that's exactly
do you do?
Well, right. So let's say that you had a first cousin who had melanoma when she was in her 20s. I have a first
cousin that died 2 years ago, cancer.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So you would say, well, okay, you've got a little bit of ginger in you. You got some red hair in your beard. Okay, you're not a redhead, but you've got light skin. Scandinavian, and you've got a second-degree relative with cancer, skin cancer. So you need to be very attentive about your skin. And you may not be able to afford to go to see a doctor every year, but you or your spouse can look at your skin and you can look for the big markers.
Right.
Do I have a new lesion? Is it growing? Is it irregular? Is the texture changing? Is the color changing? Okay. Those are simple things that visually you can tell about a lesion. Now, you don't need to come in and have every little mole or dot or red thing looked at every time it happens, but you can be watching that and you can say, well, geez, that red dot's bigger now and the edges are more irregular and it has a texture to it. Maybe I should, a month or two into this, go get it looked at and not ignore it. So, but we've identified in advance, hey, you need to really be paying attention to your skin. Likewise with Uncle Buck, died of a heart attack in his 50s. That's a young age, even for back when he passed away. So you need to know what your cholesterol is. Your cholesterol needs to be in the range your doctor wants it to be in. If your weight is up, you need to get that weight down because of that risk factor alone. So that's the whole point of looking at what are your particular identified risk and what do you attend to. And you may have both. You may have a cousin that had melanoma and an uncle that had a heart attack at a young age. And then you may be like a fellow I had in new patient this week, and both parents lived into their 90s. So I'm like, well, you picked the right parents.
There's unknown risk and there's known risk. Mm-hmm. And the known risk is really linked to family history.
Right.
Let me ask this question for people out there.
And other things, industrial exposures.
Okay, industrial exposures, okay. I got that. But let me ask that question out there for people that are, what is it like for you as a physician when somebody comes in and you start saying, I don't see anything on the chart for family history, and they say, I'm adopted, I don't have that history.
Yeah. That's interesting you brought that up, because this very patient mentioned that they had parents that lived into their 90s and then they said they were adopted. And I'm like, okay, well, the parents that live into their 90s, were they your biological parents or were they your adoptive parents? Because that's two totally different animals for your risk factors. Right. Okay. Turns out this person knew his biological genetic parents and how old they looked.
I won't say that's the top reason when you get older to look for your parents. Mm-hmm. But it's in that top reason.
Oh, it is in the top. I would say it's at the very top. Know the longevity of those who gave you your genes, mm-hmm. and what took them out. Okay, and what bad habits did they have? Okay, if this Uncle Buck was 200 pounds overweight and he smoked like a chain smoker, 2 packs a day, and he lived a very stressed out life, well, making it to 55 may have been an actual long life for him.
How difficult is for you to do any kind of screening or to start at basically zero when somebody comes in and you don't have that history to work with?
It is the focus of my initial visit. And those visits take longer, not so much for the lab draws and the physical examination, it's from the history.
Right.
Because you've got to talk through all those things and ask all those questions and come at it from several different directions, because a lot of times folks may be blocked down on it, or they didn't quite hear the question right, or they might have not understood what you're asking. So you kind of poke at it a lot. The history is the big consuming part of the exam, is questioning the patient about what went on. There's an old saying that, it's not old, but it's from my medical school days, that 90% of a diagnosis is made by history. Maybe 8% by a physical exam and 2% by the lab. Folks come in, they want a lab, they want to do all these labs. Well, that doesn't contribute a lot to my diagnosis. It may confirm it, but most of the time when I'm figuring something out that's going on, it's by the history.
Can we switch gears and do something really quick? Our panel is ready over here, but there's something I really want you to address this morning. Can you dispel some of the things? Again, let's go back to the internet. There are mothers out there, parents, across this country. I have read some very disturbing articles. I have read articles concerning babies that have had to be hospitalized, one thing after another, and people are searching for answers. How concerned are you that some people are now wanting to make their own formulas, wanting to create their own baby formula?
Baby formulas is a modern invention, and it's very useful in babies who have special feeding issues. It's a fairly rare thing, babies with special feeding issues. But when it exists, it's serious. And the beauty of these formulas is that they specifically help that child grow in that critical period. So you're talking about a very narrow, small group of people that the formulas are critical for. Moms that are able to adjust and work to a workaround over feeding their children, I'm not worried. I mean, there's enough wisdom and grandparents in the world to help figure that problem out. The larger issue that we're about to get into is the stress of poverty, the stress of the economics. I was watching a news analysis where let me just digress just for a second, okay? When we were little, there was a 5 and dime store, okay? And the proprietor of that 5 and dime store kind of knew his group of people that were coming in and what they would buy and how much they would buy. And
right.
That was his intuition. He was successful based upon his ability to judge that market and make that local area thing. We have this thing called Walmart now, and things that mimic Walmart, where they know to the store, to the shelf, what's on it and what's selling and how fast it's selling.
Right, exactly.
It's a whole different animal, okay? But we have people in healthcare making decisions like authoritarians, and people in politics doing the same, that think like mom and pop 5 and dime stores, when there are systems and whole industries that are orders of magnitude smarter in their business sense than that old technology. So when Walmart came out last week in their public reports, their stock reports, and said that they're selling more half gallons of milk than they are gallons of milk in the last month, alarm should be going off with the politicians. Okay, why would the people who shop at Walmart's step down that they're buying smaller containers of a critical food substance? Because they can't afford it. Okay, they can only afford this much at a time. Their family budgets, they live hand to mouth, week to week. Their family budgets are now eaten up with gas prices and other inflations. And so they're having to make critical decisions about what they were buying. Well, that's a bad sign for us.
Right.
Okay. But we have now, if we had some smart people paying attention, they would be saying, those alarms would be going off and saying, well, what is going on in the economy that shift in a buying pattern of a critical food substance is going on? Last week we talked about the baby formula and the fact they took a whole section of baby formula out with just stupid, inane inattention to detail that's harming these mothers with babies. Well, we got other stupid, inane inattention to detail going on where families now are making hard decisions about, can I afford gas for the car to get to work, or can I afford milk for my kids for breakfast?
Well, we're a data-driven society, and it's there.
It's there if you're smart enough to use it.
You could check that data immediately and see the switch in the pattern. As a physician, we'll close with this. How concerned are you about, with the cost of everything from inflation to gas, home heating, fuel, all the above, that people may forgo medication? Forgo medications or eat lesser grade foods or go hungry. Hunger makes for a lot of bad things. All right, I'm going to close with that. You got anything else?
No, that's it.
You good?
I'm good.
You already told the joke. Can I hear it one more time? No. What was that?
What do you call someone with no body and no nose?
Nobody knows.
That's right.
All right, folks, Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley. He has gone to his grandson's graduation. We wish them well today. We thank Georgia Cancer Specialist, Northside Hospital Cancer Institute, Dr. Raymond Tidman. We'll be back with the All-Star panel right after this.